Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Allen Story, and welcome on the Frontline series looking at the still image. We broadcast this program the first Thursday of every month, and I hope you'll be joining in the ensuing months because we have quite an exciting series of program. We feature the influence and the impact of the still photograph, and today's show focuses on the world of fashion photography, 21st century. It actually coincides with the Paris Fashion Week featuring today with us Julia Hetta, who recently produced a visual fairy tale esque, as what I call it, is the Dior 2022 cruise advertising campaign against the backdrop of the Temple of Zeus in Athens. And I'm going to ask Julia more about it. Mostly Julia's imagery for me on the world of fashion photography is a glimpse of an alternative world, a dreamlike world. It's very rich with romance. There's a quietude associated with classical paintings, almost classical music, and her work exclusively, almost, I think exclusively, Julia, you can tell us later, the natural light and long exposure times. Her subjects are imbued with a sense of quietness, serenity, um, and power. They are empowered. The color and texture transforms, I think, her fashion photographs and compositions into a timeless enchantment that we can be looking at them 100 years from now, and they're still going to have that magic and draw us in. Uh, Julia, welcome. I'm so happy you agreed to be part of this show. Originally, we were planning to be in Paris, and hilariously or not so hilariously, 2 weeks ago, I came down with the COVID, completely to my surprise, and so we couldn't do something in person, which we had hoped, which we would hope to do. Why don't we just kick off? We'd love for you to share with our audience what has inspired you over the years, the campaigns that you've created, and also what fashion photographers perhaps you admire, um, what collaborations you have created over the years, especially if you tell us a little bit about your brother, Hen, who is a stylist. And shall we kick off with some of the imagery of the Dior campaign? And you can walk us through the ideas behind it, what the inspiration was, and let's do it from there.
Yes,
Carry on.
thank you.
We're just waiting for some pictures to come up from Prandira, who is always in the background, hoping to make us a, there we go. All right.
Yes, so this is a campaign I did for Dior this summer, and it was shot in Greece, in Athens. And this is, of course, a client job, and it's the collection done from Maria Grazia de Curie. And it was a little bit special from how I normally work, because it was more based on of a movement, and normally I work with the opposite, more a still picture, that it feels very still and almost like a still life. But here Maria Grazia wanted to include more of a movement in my pictures, which I found.
I was just saying, maybe we can show some of the pictures because that's very still here.
Yeah.
You're talking about the movement.
Yes, and there was also important to have the ingredients that I often work with, an ingredients that includes a surrealistic aspect. So I was working with different kinds of glass in front of the lens, which made it made this way of movement, and also double exposure, and uncertain things to happen. So for me, it was also a way of working a little bit more free than normally, that things could happen really fast, depending on how you used the glass in front of the lens, and it was something that was, you couldn't really.
When you say a glass in front of the lens, for some of our viewers that may not be technically aware of
Yeah.
what were you taking, a big piece of glass or something that fit onto the front end of the lens?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like a homemade filter out from different old glass materials. So yeah, it was very much an experimental way of working, and also belongs to a little bit like old techniques. I mean, I really like old techniques, and I like to bring that into the digital era. So if I work with a digital camera, for example, I like to include, for example, just real glass from an old glass object in front of the lens to make it as a filter, and then experiment with it. And
We
also
Yeah.
working with grains, or working with for example, we were working a lot to get the right black and white feeling here, to get it a little bit like an old print, but it's still a digital work. So that was something that was also
How did you
important.
decide to choose to shoot in Athens in these columns and so on? Pamvera, can you give us the next picture so we can just roll it forward? Thank you. That's
Um, yeah, I mean, shooting in Athens and in front of the columns, and so that is something that came from Dior, from the collection, because the collection itself was inspired by Greece, and both the future and the past history of Greece. So so that was something I was invited to. But then, of course, we talked about the concept in itself, that it shouldn't feel too much like women statues. It was important for Maria Grazia that the women felt that they were not objects at all, but they were there in front of the temple, but still they were grounded with, for example, sneaker shoes, even though the dresses are gorgeous and very romantic. And that's where it was also important that they were moving and not static. And I think she has, for her, it's very important about how I portrait women and how she's working with women. And she also have this rule that it's only women photographers that she's working with, which I think is quite amazing.
Really only working
Yes,
with women photographers. That's
yes,
interesting. You know,
yes, very
this
much.
picture here, when I was looking at it, it almost it looks like she's almost space age in the way the jewels seem to be.
Yeah, yes, and that
What was the idea behind? How did you come up with this amazing idea?
Um, I think it was an idea from the whole team. I mean, when I work, it's very much a team. It's like a theater play, and it's like we are talking a lot beforehand, and so it's all the people are really the ingredients here. And for example, it's the wonderful makeup artist called sorry, now I forgot his name, Peter Phillips, and he's just amazing. And he was inspired by the collection, and also played beautiful pearls. You don't really see it in the picture, but you see if you look carefully, it's pearls in the between the eyes, also real pearls on the skin, and then it's also this veil. And then I I liked it to be looking almost like jewelries that were moving, and yeah, so it's very much something that happens on the place, but then it's also a lot of discussions beforehand, and then it's also a lot of people that make the ingredients. So yeah, so it's
these pictures, you know, there's a combination of longer shots where you see the fashion and what has been designed, and this picture here is really atmospheric, and it's a portrait, really.
yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't say, you know, because of the theming, of course, it's Dior, but at the end of the day, if you're just looking at a single image, it's a portrait, and it has that kind of romantic, I think, very romantic
Mm.
atmosphere. Can we have the next picture, Pam Vera?
Yes, no, but it's true that I really love portraiture, and so I always try to bring that into a photo shoot, and I think that's important. But then, of course, since I work a lot with fashion, it often is requires that I have a full length picture as well, which I also think is interesting. But I do love coming closer and doing. I mean, the portrait is essential in my work, I have to say, as the still life is also. But yes, and here, for example, you see also the technical part of the double exposure, and I think that's something that is also interesting and dreamy. And of course, I've been very inspired by great fashion female photographers from the history, like Deborah Turbeville, that you can maybe see the inspiration from here, I would say, and also others, of course, like Sarah Moon and Francesca Woodman. But this body of work for Dior, I think I was looking much into the old work from Deborah Turbeville, which I always adored since I was a teenager. And I think it's always important with a certain feeling of classic, ageless, timeless work that I try to achieve.
There's a lot of motion in this particular picture. The fashion is floating, and the models are still, but the everything seems to be, there's a fluidity about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful picture. I love it. And I mean, it must, how did you come up, you know, the ideas of the casting, you know, the kind of faces that you were looking for, the kind of bodies you were looking for?
Well, I think it's very important with the casting, and I put a lot of effort there, and work with great people that helps me. Of course, here, as it's a client's job, we are many people that have to have a yeah, it has to please a little bit more people than normally for an editorial job. But I think I always try to push for an interesting casting with women that has a certain integrity. I think is important. And that, yeah, that sometimes, you know, the old way of saying it, that maybe if you do a portrait, it reflects yourself. And I do think maybe without knowing it, I might also search for people that reminds me of myself in the feeling of myself, you know, with integrity, a little bit maybe shy side, or not always looking directly into the camera. But still, of course, I think it's important also that it's a strong woman that I show. But I think that's also something that I think is interesting, those sort of balances between something soft and something strong. That it's someone with integrity, but still you can feel that it's someone that is powerful, for example. So yeah, it's the casting is something that I really dig into to find the right people, and body-wise I also try to secure that it's not too skinny models, not too young models, etc. And that is the also a part of that that it's importance. And then gestures and movement is of course really important. And I always take time before a shoot to sit down with the models, show them my work, make them understand what I would like them to do and what they are there for, and show them respect and show them the importance of that it's their act and we are doing something together, but it's a trust, and it's also something, I mean, it's important for them to understand what kind of role they are going to play, and also to listen to what they think of the concept, and then I often show them the inspiration for that particular shoot, and also talking about the importance of hands and feet and yeah, just small directions. So it's very much a play between us.
And it's a very interesting way to work because it creates such an intimate collaboration between you and the models, and working with the stylists and the makeup artists. I mean, I can certainly see in this image the drama of the makeup artist with all the pearls that it seems on
Yes, there you see the pearls, exactly.
the eyes, and it's so elegant, just the way it looks, and it's very modern. It's romantic and modern, but like the cuffs are very strong. Those are like almost a fighter's cuffs, if
Yeah,
you and so on, which brings it from the softness of the romantic component into something that is very strong. And so,
yeah.
can we look at the next image, and Canberra, please? I'm
And
always
that's
out of control. There we go.
That's
yeah,
the last one on this collection.
Okay, you know what
yeah,
I thought we would do now? I just wanted to open up with the Dior campaign, basically because most of the audience that is involved in the fashion industry would certainly, and photography, would be very familiar with it because it's been published everywhere. And I thought it would be just as a kickoff and so on. But what I would love for you to do now is to take us on the journey that is so beautifully put together for the film, and walk us through the imagery. You said when we were talking earlier that much of it is editorial biased and some are campaigns. And I had said to you, I'm just always so struck about your painterly expression, the sense of surrealism and dreamlike quality in much of the imagery, and who inspires you. So why don't we start off with the film, and you can walk us through it, and we'll have it running in the background. And if you'd like to stop at any one of the pictures, or if I do, I may raise my hand and say, can we talk about this?
yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a collection of work that I been doing for over the 10 past years. And for example, this picture is something that I had in my head for a long time. That I think I was reading a book about. It was about an autistic boy who always had threads from his fingertips to some objects, and I just thought that was such a beautiful imagery to sort of have threads from the fingertips to something, because and then I was thinking of the eye, and it is a very surrealistic picture, of course, and it talks, of course, about vision and senses, and yeah, and then I guess that many of my pictures are also open to the audience to interpret that themselves what it is for them, but and I also like that to keep it open, but that's the background of the picture. And this is a picture that I did, like sometimes, you know, you do those pictures in between something. So this was a day after a fashion shoot, and I was together with a Japanese friend of mine who's hairstylist, and we were just playing around in the studio because we had all the material left from the day before. So we just did still life out of that, and I find that way of working also really nice.
When you segue here, Julia, I that was a very feathery and bird-like, and the image before,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then here is this model with the feathers flying off the headdress, and
yeah, yeah,
I love this dissolve of the way the two came together.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's nice. That's true. And yes, this is a shooting I did for Italian Vogue, which I was really happy about to be participating for them. And it's the Valentino Collection 3 years ago, I think. And the colors were amazing in that collection, and the hats as well. So that was just so pleasant and lovely to work with that collection itself, and also working with the models and the way they were able to move. So, and this is a picture that talks about sleep and dreams. So I wanted to photograph people sleeping, which I did for this shooting for a magazine called Luncheon Magazine, a London-based magazine, a beautiful one. And I was working with a model that I've been working with many times, who used to be a painter model. And I just love her body and her forms and the way she moves. And then I think, as much as this is a body study, it's also almost like a still life. And yeah, it's something.
Very much a still life. Is when I was looking at it, I was thinking it is a portrait, but it's also that it's so
Yeah.
still, quiet. This is the image I was saying when we were talking
Yes.
about
Yes.
casting earlier. That I'm
Yes.
so curious about this kind of what the men are wearing, the fashion element of it, and
Yeah.
striking, the composure and the imagery of those models. Can you tell
Yeah.
us a bit about what inspired you to create this?
Yes, I mean, we were really happy. It was this shooting was with my brother Hannes Hetta, who's the stylist,
Uh-huh.
and we were very happy about the outcome of the casting here, because we really wanted to have almost like a like twin couple here. So it's actually one woman and one man, but the man is dressed with a skirt and the woman is very much male dressed. And they became really good friends after this shooting as well. So that was so lovely.
The men and the woman here is what you
Yes,
say.
yes, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But I'm happy that you might not see that. And Maggie,
yeah.
who's the woman here, I've been working with her, I think, 2 or 3 times, and I love her face because it reminds me so much of of almost like a Modigliani painting, or a woman from the surrealistic era. And yeah, she's just fabulous in her character. And yes, so we were just reaching out to all the great casters that we work with, and we got some proposals, and we looked for people for at least 2 weeks or something, and then finally we found this great match.
It's absolutely, it's so striking. It's so much drama in the picture, and it asks for me
Mm,
so many questions. What's the relationship? And I love
mm,
it. Let's
yeah,
see. Anyhow, that
and
was the one I was really curious about.
yeah, and I was
All the
also
imagery.
with Maggie, who's the female here. I was also amazed about how she also reminded me of Georgia O'Keeffe. And
Yeah.
there's one picture, or there's many pictures that I love that her husband did. But I always loved the portraits of Georgia O'Keeffe looking up against the sky. And yeah, I thought that Maggie also reminded me of her.
So to tell us about this imagery here.
So this imagery is it's very much a collaboration with a set designer called Shona Heat.
Hmm.
She's a great set designer, and she's been working a lot with Tim Walker. And she's just fabulous to work with, because she always comes up with great ideas, and she puts so much into the pictures. And for this shooting made for another magazine, we wanted to create a surrealistic space. And then she came up with the idea of creating a upside down room. And I just loved the idea. It was such a sort of simple idea, but everything became so interesting. And yeah, I wanted it just to be very almost like a picture out from a dream, or almost from a horror movie, or surrealistic film. Yeah, so it was very much a collaboration with Shona Heath here.
It's so painterly as well, like so many
Yeah,
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 the set design and so on, and it asks many questions.
yeah, yeah,
But now we're segueing into what more of the still life and
yeah. Yeah, those are both the two pictures that we just saw is from a shooting I did in Normandy. And we did it, me and my brother, for a magazine called Re-Edition. And we spent a weekend in Normandy and did still life out of the things that we found on the beach. So plastic things that have came from the ocean, or feathers, etc. And then together with the pictures of this couple, and yeah, we worked very freely. And I was also inspired by some Bergman pictures, Bergman films with this couple. And then I thought it was a great mix with a still life together with a couples, and it was almost like the pictures of the couples also played the same role as the still
with
life. It was very much
yeah, this segue,
uh,
going from the previous film in imagery in black and white, and this one, which is in color, and
yeah.
the lighting in this is, there's so much drama in it, and the shadow of the woman's face on the back of the man. Um,
Mm.
what was the
Yes.
idea behind this? Is wonderful.
Yes, I mean, I also remember that I was going to get married, like uh, just, 2 weeks later or something like that. So for me, it also talked about, I was a little bit scared of what is it to be married, you know, and it felt so grown up for me. So it was also about being a couple and what is that, being next to someone for the rest of your life, and what is you know, what is it to be a couple, and what is it to become someone's wife, etc. So yeah, for me, but that was a little bit a hidden agenda.
Well,
But
it's lovely. It's called the backstory,
yeah,
Julie.
exactly,
And
exactly.
I mean, I just look at this and it's just so soft and gentle and romantic. And when we were
Mm,
talking earlier, again, you know, the still lifes that you've incorporated into this film, how the balance of seeing the back of the man and the woman, the intimacy, and then we're into this staircase, which it almost looks like a bit of a Rembrandt
mm,
painting of close up in a detail of something. What was
yeah.
the idea of the stairs and the drama of that?
I mean, I think there's always been something in the art and surreal art, and yeah, I mean, it's always been what do you say, a symbol for something, of course. So it's an easy way of showing a symbol that um, you can think of it in different ways. But then I think it's also about finding just a space where the light is beautiful, and the tones are beautiful, and it's also the stair up to a good friend of mine in Paris. And I used to walk up those stairs now and then to my friend.
And also,
Uh,
they look so in this image, for you know, on screen. Of course, I'm looking on screen. They look like they're coated in copper, and then you have
yeah, yeah,
you know, very typical what I call French balustrade leading up the stairs. But it looks so coppery to me when I first was viewing the image.
yeah, yes. And I always love to bring out the material. It is not copper, but I love that you almost think that, because I think materials are important in my picture. I often work with fabrics, and velvets are important, and colors, how colors comes out in different materials. And here I also been working a lot with bringing out uh, the little light there is. And I also like the idea of this picture. For example, I have it actually in my home, really huge and framed. And it's almost, when you walk into that room, it almost is like you also have a part of a Parisian place in your room, you know. So
Very nice thought
yeah,
indeed. That's not too shabby.
yeah,
Next picture, Fabio, please. This is the image that, you know, Julie, when I was kidding you around, it reminded me of some crazy imagery of with Salvador Dali in chess
yes,
that he has
yes,
and
exactly,
flying and so on.
exactly,
I
yes.
love this. It's so much fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, but and it comes from the same series that we saw before, and this one too, that I did for another magazine, with the ingredients from the upside down room. But it all comes, and here we can stop a little bit.
Hold this one, Fran.
Yeah.
Don't rush this one.
But and then yeah, so it comes from that series, and it's also, of course, from horror movies, when things are moving around. I mean, I'm talking about the picture with the chairs now, and
Yeah.
also the Salvador Dali, and yeah. But this it fits with this picture that comes afterwards, because this is a picture that I did also for Dior, the house of Dior, and it was the Hot Couture Collection, and I did it together with the set designer Jean-Hugues de Chatillon, that I work with many times, and especially for Dior. And it's also something that talks about surrealism and the senses, hearing, listening, seeing, and the mirror is there, which is often a symbol in the surrealistic art, and the black and white floor that comes a little bit from, the Alice in Wonderland maybe, and yeah, it's different rooms that you enter.
It's so surreal, the
Yeah.
different rooms, and maybe it is, Alice in Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole and ending up in
Yes.
this ballroom kind of a thing with, the the big mouth and the ear. And the thing that struck me is, that it is part of a Dior campaign, but it's a very, very different, dramatic kind of imagery for fashion. If we are showing something that's about fashion, and yet to me, it's totally painterly, it's surreal. It isn't screaming about fashion, but fashion is
Mm.
within the context of it. And
Yeah.
it's a departure of a lot of fashion imagery that I've witnessed, in the high gloss Vogue magazines. What was your inspiration to create this picture?
I mean, this was a great request from Dior. It's actually not a campaign, so that's just important maybe for Dior to let the audience know. It is for Dior magazine, so they create this beautiful magazine, and I mean, it's. It is a campaign in one way, but it's their magazine, and Haute Couture Collection here was inspired by the beautiful artist called Leonore Fini. So Leonore Fini was a surrealistic painter, and I was so amazed to get the request to shoot this collection, because I really loved the work of Leonore Fini. So that was the starting point, to look at Leonore Fini's work and see where I could bring that with my work and with the collection and with all the ingredients. And so for a whole month, I was looking at her work, and also the inspiration that Leonore Fini herself had, and yeah, just reading and looking at works that was connected to her, and then yeah, it was just such a pleasure to dig into that world, and
Well, it has such, drama. For me, it's a
mm,
surreal painting. Is in
mm,
looking at it is, and the tonality of the black and white photography is extraordinary. I mean, it has so many different colors of tone, even though
mm,
it's black and white, and it's an image that, I keep coming back to this image when I was looking at your films and everything else, because it has so much other things in it that, you didn't see the first time, and when you view it again, you see something else, and there's another discovery, which I love when you can look at any kind of imagery.
mm.
Wonderful. Next picture, Pamela, please.
Yes, this is a strong picture that I think many people have told me that they like, and that they find really strong, and also some people have told me that they feel that it reminds themselves of something. But for me, this was a picture that somehow I was inspired by the work of Francesca Woodman, but it's not, she never did something like this, but I think her work is so much about sort of the feeling of feeling how can you say, like closed or stuck into something, or I don't know if you know her work, but
I know her
it's
work.
very,
No,
yeah,
very
yes,
well.
yes.
Very well.
So then you know what I'm talking about. I mean,
Yes,
it's
I
very much psychology in her work, and it's super strong, and I found it so interesting to work with fashion and to work with the latest collections. For example, this is I think it was a collection from was it Dolce Gabbana or Versace? It was a Versace dress, and I think Versace would never have been thinking that this dress would end up like this, you know.
I think you're absolutely right, particularly with your inspiration of Woodland, because a few pictures before there was also I thought I was thinking of Francesca's work also, where there was a woman walking through the door, and some
Yeah,
of the imagery that that she had created. I have most of her books, I think, in my library.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's. Although I think what you're talking about now is very interesting, and hopefully to the audience as well, is that you don't have to take a traditional route when you're showing fashion. It's not what you would expect from Versace.
exactly.
I mean, this picture here, there's so much happening in it, and the striking color of the fashion, how the
Mm,
model looks, the landscape of the set design that you've set
mm,
up. It's so much drama. um,
mm. Oh, happy to hear, because sometimes I find that it's so silent, but then I love the feeling that that you say that it's drama also, because I try to capture that it's a silence and still dramatic. I find that can be very powerful, I think, but it's also hard to achieve, but that's the aim. And I do find that combination really interesting.
well, you have
Um,
the architecture here. Can we keep in that picture, please, Pembera? Can we go back for a second, please? If we can. I don't know if we can or can't. Yeah.
yeah.
And the thing that struck me a lot about this picture is the fashion itself has a lot of structure, as does
Mm,
the set design, and
yes.
the model is very sculptured. She,
Yeah.
the body, her face, everything about it, and
Yeah.
it just what I say is it's quiet, but it has that kind of strength and drama that just seems to
Mm, yeah.
permeate out from the
Mm.
imagery. Who is the designer? Who is the
I have to admit that this one I'm not sure. I know that it's quite a young London-based designer who was it was his own brand, and I don't think that many people knows it. I mean, outside the fashion world in London, maybe, but he was quite newly graduated from which I know. So it was a shooting I did for Dazed and Confused.
uh,
I'm sorry about that. I don't know the name of.
no, it's all right. It's just the combination of the way you treat it, the way you've styled it, the way you've photographed it, the lighting,
Mm,
and so on.
so it's the stylist is another friend of mine called Matthias Karlsson, and we have been working a lot together. And the hair is made of this from this Japanese friend of mine who I also did the bird picture with, and he's called his name is Tomohiro Kono, and he's really sculpturing with her, and we like the idea that the hair was in front of the mouth, so this woman was unable to speak, so it was something a bit claustrophobic with her, and at the same time, it's something scary but also very beautiful, of course.
It is very beautiful. And see the next picture. Sorry, Pamela, I made you go backwards and so on. And tell us about this picture. There's a lot happening in it.
Yeah. This was a wonderful shooting that I did also with a wonderful person and set designer Shona Heat, and it was based on the idea of that the magazine, another magazine, wanted to do issue about a party. And then I looked into different inspiration of parties, and I realized that I really loved the old cookbook from Salvador Dali and his wife Dala. They had done this amazing cookbook out from the dinners with Gala. And it's those crazy dishes, just totally surreal dishes, you know. For example, a whole octopus filled with another animal, etc., etc. Just those crazy dinners that they apparently did with friends of them. So I wanted to create the still lives out from this dinner, and also the people that could have been to this dinner. So we are also looking for very special casting, and my friend Tomohiro was also doing headpieces for this shooting, those beautiful things with feathers. And it was just like 3 days of a big surrealistic party for ourselves and the team as well.
Pretty good fun. But,
Yeah.
and this picture here again, when we were talking about the stillness of your you say that you love portrait and it's very much your signature, and so on. This is such a classical, portrait, and yet it has a modern vibe and signature. So you're not being thrown back into the past, although it has that rooting. What was this? What was the picture about? Why was it created?
So this was here for this shooting, for example, it was also a long period of casting, and it's done for a beautiful magazine that was called Acne Paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first magazines I was shooting for when I started to shoot for magazines, and they gave me so great free hands and a lot of trust in my work, etc. And the magazine itself was always beautiful, and beautiful prints, etc. And I had been looking to a Swedish movie with this girl in the picture, a young girl, and the film itself was called The Girl. And I remember that I was just so struck of her face and the way she was looking into the camera, and the feeling of that she was this kind of character that almost felt like she was a child, but her face was looking so mature and so from another era or another time.
So you talked about the girl on the left.
On the left, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So then it took me a while to find her, but I found her, and she's an what do you say, not artist, but she's doing theater and films here in Sweden. And I showed her my work and asked if she wanted to be part of this project that talked about youth, and she really liked my work, which I was happy about. And her mother was also with that day, and then I found also the rest of the casting for this shooting. But she was really so special to work with, and I think her face is out from I was also inspired of those old paintings where how children were painted long time ago, that they were almost like mature people,
Yes.
grown up,
Especially
but they were
they dress them. You have an 8-year-old
exactly.
that looks like they're wearing their mother's clothing. The way
Yes, exactly.
picture and so
And
on.
here, yeah, and she's wearing a Valentino dress, and my brother was the stylist, and he was very happy about that she could fit her into a Valentino dress for a grown up. And yeah, she was just from, because of the importance, I think, talking with your model beforehand, showing your work, make them understand what you're going to do. She just came there and just sat down, and she knew exactly what I was asking for her. So I didn't have to say anything, and I was just doing some picture, and then it was done. And I was like, wow, you knew what I wanted immediately. And I was just so yeah, thrilled about.
Was this part of a series, that you were doing when you're talking about the youth and so on? Have you done other images as part of a
Yes,
story?
so this is part of a story out of 12 pictures, 12 portraits, all in this painterly quality. And I think this is also from that series. And it was called Jungfrukällan. It's a Swedish title from a Bergman film. Yes, and this is another it's a very old picture from me, but still relevant, I think, where I was working for a Swedish magazine, and I was working for many weeks afterwards with a post-production on this picture, because I really wanted it to feel almost alabaster skin like against a black backdrop. And I also loved the jewelry from Jean-Paul Gaultier here, which is the form of a watch, but there's no time in it. So I think that was also something very symbolic here.
Very, very interesting. There's such stillness in these portraits, a gentleness and so on.
Yeah.
And this picture here again, when I was viewing it, that there's so, to me, traditional. It could have been shot, as one of Napoleon's friends, and
Yeah.
except he's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
wearing but the face, the casting again is.
Yeah, the casting was important, and my brother was playing a big part of this shooting. It was one of the first ones we did together, actually. And my brother, Hannes Hetta, who's the stylist, he brought me into the fashion world, because I'm coming from a background from more art photography from the beginning. And this was one of the first shooting we did together, and my brother was finding clothes from Andy Müllemeister, and we did a casting together. And I was shooting then outside in the street with this boy, but my brother was telling me like, no, let's start the shooting again. We just keep the pictures you did in the street to something else, but now we're going into the velvet backdrop again, and we do it only there because that's what you been doing with your art photography, portraits against a black background, and it's just so strong, he thought. And then I was a little bit like, thought that he was asking me to do something a bit boring and not having any other ingredients there. But in the end, I think he was very right. And I do think sometimes when you bring away stuff, the essential thing comes to you. And after that, I've been doing a lot of pictures like this, just in front of a black velvet backdrop, and I think it's something that is interesting in the way it comes out with the light and the textures, and also there is a focused feeling.
Well, it certainly threads everything together with the black background. It becomes a unit, even though each picture, I mean, for me, each picture is actually a standalone. And what threads it together is, of course, the black background. But the drama in these, is the lighting is so unique, and
and yet very simple, I have to say, in one way. I mean, people always start to laugh when I say that, but it is a simple. The light is basically simple because it's just from one source and it's natural light. And I mean, everyone in a photo school can do it, but it's more.
Yeah, I'm really interesting because we've been talking about natural and available light.
Yeah.
Where are you getting your natural light to create an image like this?
I mean, just from the nature itself, from from the sky, So it's. I mean, it's just natural lighted studios that I'm working with. So old sculpture ateliers, for example, are the best ones, where there is a north-facing window, and then you work with that light source that you have there. And since I come from the dark part of the world in Sweden, I sometimes sometimes it's absolutely black during day and night here, but then I go to Paris and shoot.
And the light change. I mean, I love also. I'm passionate about available light.
I've seen that.
I work with, sometimes people say, "Where's your light pack?" I said, "What light pack?" I've got my camera.
Yes, exactly. You have your eyes and you have your camera, and then you can see how it looks like. I mean, for this picture, for example, which I think I managed to get a quite nice light. It's just in an old house, so it's not even a studio. It's just looking with your eyes where the light is looking beautifully, and then you try to set up a background there or models, and then you sculpture with what there is.
Well, that's very surreal, that image.
Yeah.
I that person.
Yeah.
What the view is. Do we have any more? We're getting close to the time that we've allowed and so on. And I'd like to see some of the other images, but I think some of our audience would love to ask you some some questions, and I have the privilege of calling you up because I have your number and I can chat with you endlessly. After, also if we just this picture, I love this because it's a journey to wear, and it asks so many questions, and I love the way it's interspersed with the portraiture work, and
Mm.
asking questions. Where did you photograph this picture?
This was actually in the very end of a photo shooting, and it's in the countryside where I have a house outside Stockholm. So it's road that I see almost every day when I have my free time during the summers.
Okay. Pramvera, shall we just run through some of the pictures that we've got so people can get a full eye escape of your work, and then we can segue into some questions from the audience. And so, in the still life, it's so beautiful.
This is another kind of light that I normally use. So this was from this, I don't know how you say it, but like a blue-white bulb light. And that was the idea from Shona Heat, and I was totally terrified when they came up with that idea to work with that kind of light. But then I thought it was quite interesting to try something new.
Well, it looks very fluorescent, the
Yes,
hand.
exactly. It's the
And
fluorescent
the
light, exactly.
eyes, especially, is
Yes.
it's mysterious and a bit eerie.
Yes, very much. Yes, so.
So,
And it comes from the same series that was inspired by by some horror movies and series. This is a shooting for Dior again, so it was also a Hot Couture collection that we shot in a beautiful house outside Paris, and it was also together with the great set designer Jean-Hugues de Châtillon. And it's a picture that is made into the mirror, so it's an old mirror, and that's why you get this kind of filter.
A reflection from the mirror.
Exactly, yeah.
Understood.
And this is also in the same house.
And this is also part of the Dior.
Exactly, yes.
Dior collection.
Yes, and I was also inspired by the Norwegian painter Hammershøi. I don't know if you are familiar with him, but he has a beautiful body of work, and it's often this kind of color tones and quite much drama, but very much stillness in the same time.
Well, this picture is almost like a still life, even though there's models that are in it, and
yes,
also the emptiness of the room. The room has furniture really in it. It's just the architecture of the room and the tonality of the room.
Yeah. And here we have the flying chair again.
Yes. I won't ask you how you did the setup on that, and that looks like a gigantic fish in it.
Yes, that came also from the dinners with Salvador Dali and Gala. That shooting, and here's the still life from the oceans again in Normandy. And this is also the couple from Normandy, just some weeks before that I got married. And here we're at dinners with Salvador Dali again. So crazy set design. And this is a portrait of Malgosia, a beautiful woman and a great model to work with. She's so gorgeous in the way she's moving, and she knows exactly how to work with her body to make forms, and yeah, very, very great to work with.
Carol, I could bring in a question from the audience now, and we can still look at some of the pictures.
Let's do that.
Sorry, you can't see me. So one of the questions is, how has the female gaze of the consumer affected the way you frame your work?
I mean, I think being a woman myself is, of course, the starting point. And I think it is different if there is a woman or a man behind the camera. I mean, I'm not sure of it, but I think there is a difference. And I think for me, being a woman, portraying another woman is then it's important that I can relate to that person myself. And I think I mentioned that before, that it's important for me with the casting and the feeling of that it's someone who has a integrity but still a strength, and that you have a feeling of almost yeah, I think I often try to sort of include myself in the picture, and by that I think I do it naturally. I don't know if that was the right answer or not, or if I understood the question, but yeah, please go on if you have.
The next one is, what is your favorite part of the creative process?
I think that is to start the ideas with the people that I'm going to work with, and to find inspiration and really go into the theme and do the mood board, etc. Then the day before I'm going to shoot it, or the day that when I actually going to shoot it, I'm just very nervous, and that's the worst part of it, I have to say.
I can't imagine you being very nervous.
Yes, I am, but I try to hide it as much as possible, just to be brave for the person I'm going to shoot. So I have to sort of stand up for them, but yeah.
Well, you know,
sorry, I will ask the questions and you can finish all the others. So there's quite a few questions. So absolutely fantastic talk. Thank you so much. I noticed that quite a few of your images are taken in black and white. Is there a reason why you like to shoot in black and white? This is Babette Ratcliffe Thomas.
I like to shoot in black and white because for many reasons, but one I think is that that there is certain feeling of that it doesn't really belong to an age, and that it becomes more timeless sometimes, and also that it has a link to the surrealistic era in the photo history. And then I think it's quite interesting to just bring away ingredients, and then colors are something can be ingredients that are interesting to bring to remove. Even though I also love colors, but you have to. I'm very aware of what I place in the picture, so if I bring in the colors, I have to think about which colors, etc. And yeah, I think there's a simplicity and a history behind it, and me myself also love black and white pictures, and especially portraits.
Then you've got over the years, how has your work changed editorially? Is an anonymous attendee.
Nothing. I mean, it almost looks the same all the time. No, but I think develops slowly, and I have to say that it's important to develop slowly, because I do think that it's important to, as a photographer, when you start, to really find your soul and to understand what you want to talk about, or how you want to create pictures, and it takes time to understand that. And once you have found it, it's important to stick to it, but also to slowly, not be stuck in one thing and only do that. And for me, it's very much about the people that I'm working with, who makes me to involve the process, and therefore I'm very careful of who I work with. I like to know people quite well, and to have discussions, and to understand what we are doing together. But I think, I try to move. For example, where we started looking at the last Dior campaign some years ago, I might have been much more afraid of doing something so brutally experimental, because, and especially for a campaign where it's such a huge team, and it's so big money, and etc. It's such a big circus, and it's quite scary then to do something that you've never done before. But I try to feel more and more secure of that I can do new things and still be close to my DNA, because I have so great teams and people that understands me. So I try to just be less, to be a little bit more loose than I was before, and trust the process, and trust my photography, and trust the people that I work with.
And then the last question I have here is from Toby Harden. He says, what's the usual standard number of crew members or set or that you work with, and after yourself, who is the next most important crew member in your set that decides the direction of your shoot?
It very much depends, but the last 10 years I've been working with quite big teams, which means about 15 people or something like that. But I have to say that it's also, and I do think that it's important in the future, to be able to go from a small room to a big room, or a stage and a small stage. I really, for example, now since a couple of months, I have my own art atelier here in Stockholm, and I'm so happy about having a little space to work with more freely with smaller private shootings, and then go to Athens and shooting a campaign, and there it might be 50 people around you or something like that. But many times it's around 15 people, I would say. But I also love to work only with 3 to 5 people. It always depends what you are going to do, I think. But I do think that it's especially how the fashion industry is looking like at the moment, and also might become. I think it's important to also not always work like Steve and myself, or those big hunters. I think it's important also to be able to do small small things with that requests only a few people and so on. And the result can be as beautiful and as interesting, if not even more sometimes. And then coming to the question of which one is the most important, I do think that it's so, all the people in the team has their part of the show really, and I think it's so much of a team work. I mean, it depends on which shooting, but obviously, I mean, everything from the caster who's not on the shooting but beforehand is important, and then the set designer is very important for me because I building the whole scene if I'm shooting in a studio, and then the stylist, of course, and makeup and hair, and also, you know, the production, and because it's important of who surrounds the models, because that reflects very much how the models are feeling there in the building or in the studio or in the location. I mean, I always have to remember myself that the models are young people, they are vulnerably, and even though they have been working for many years in the business, it's a very special work to be a model and to be in front of a photographer. So you have to secure the situation and make them as relaxed and as positive as possible, and therefore all the people that are there have to have the respect for them and treat them well, and it has to be an ambience that is generous and warm and heartful, I think. So everyone has a big ingredients. I couldn't say one is more important than the other, really.
Well, what you're really saying is that it's a collaboration and the sharing
Yes, yes,
and of course your empathy about knowing that you're working with young people, models that can be vulnerable and at times have been abused in a variety of different ways, and your sensitivity of working with them and understanding that, I'm sure, brings out the very best in the kind of outcome of what you're looking for. I have one last question, and it's I think quite a simple one, but you know, the fashion industry, how do you look at it, how it's changing, and particularly changing in how your engagement with it as a photographer with a fine art background and an eye of everything that you do? How do you see the fashion industry changing 21st century?
Oh, that's a hard question, I have to say, because I'm.
You don't have to answer
I
it.
thought no, but I think it's interesting because I do think sometimes I don't think too much about what's going around. I mean, the essential thing is for me to make a great picture photographically and in photo history, so sort of. But I also think that it's interesting I'm interested in what's going to be the future, etc. And I think I mean, in fashion and also in advertising yeah, when you work with brands and the commercial world, I think I tend to see a trend that brands and commercial places are interested more and more in being connected to art, I think, or to an artist, or that it might not be so obvious in your face. I mean, it's so broad, of course, the commercial business, but with the clients that I work with, I do think that they look a lot into artists and art history, and also artist up to date, and there's a big interest of being connected to them as a brand, I think, and that collaboration I think can be very interesting, and yeah, you can say many things about it, good and bad, but I think that's something that we will see more and more of. Collaborations, I think, also is something that is going to be important for people, and collaboration between different fields, and learning from each other. Yeah.
I think what you hit the nail on the head when you say about collaborations, and we're seeing more and more of that, of joint ventures, of having a company that manufactures sneakers working with Gucci as an idea and a collaboration, and looking at the youth market as well as the couture market, and mixing it all up,
Yeah.
which is really looking at what the world is like today, in a reflection
Yeah.
in the mirror.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say, this has been one of the best fun things I've done in a long time in the fashion. Julia, your work absolutely has knocked me out, and I think the audience would share that view, and the journey that you've taken on tonight. Thank you so much. I've so thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to us really sharing in person a massive glass of champagne, or maybe a magnum with a couple of straws. Everyone, yes, indeed. It's about time you took a sip, to you. And for the rest of the audience, I brought along for Julia a bottle of champagne, and we're trying to figure out how to do it over a Zoom session, but I haven't quite been able to manage that kind of magic elixir and so on. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. It's been great fun. Please join us over the next few months. We have some very interesting shows coming up. We're going to be featuring humor, and we're going to be featuring conservation, and we're going to be featuring conflict photography, and we've certainly been aware of what's going on in the world in the Ukraine. And we're also going to be doing a hybrid kind of programming, where we're going to be doing it Zoom, as well as also doing it at different venues. Please sign up for the newsletter with Pram Vera, and she will keep you up to date on when the events are. Mostly we do this show, which is about the still image, on the first Thursday of every month. But now and then we may weave in some other dates as well. And I look forward to seeing you all again. And Julia, you and I have a date, either in London or Paris, or I may have to come to your hometown. Thank you, everyone. And
thank you so much.
It's a joy. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.